and welcome to No Coincidences. Hi, family. I'm so excited to see you. I see we have Kev in the house and Michael. Hello, brothers. And I have Lorna. And looks like we have Lori. Oh, I hope this week is going well for you, Lori, and it's much better than last week. Amy McMillan. I'm so happy to see this family. Hey, Scott, I see you popping in there too. How are you doing, Grizzly?
I am doing wonderful, broadcasting live out of Central Texas. So thank you. I'm enjoying the weather.
Are you enjoying the weather?
Yes, wonderful. I got in early this morning, so I cannot complain. Love Texas so far. So what are we doing today?
Well, we did have a guest scheduled for today, but I'm not sure if we're having technical issues with her or what's going on, but she has not been able to pop up here. So I thought maybe we could do an audience-driven No Coincidences, maybe throw a couple of readings in for them and see kind of where maybe our audience has had stories that they'd like to talk about or questions about things that they've had pop up in their life that it shows no coincidences.
Yeah, absolutely. What do y'all think about that, audience? Scott, how you doing today, Scott?
So, look. Amy said she loves your fancy background, Grizzly.
Yeah, right. A little different. So, hello, how are y'all? Nice to see you there. Welcome back. Hello there.
Oh, Scott, we're going to be in Michigan in what, about a week and a half?
Yeah, about a week. And we also just got invited this morning. We are going to be in Kentucky October 5th, and we're going to film a special edition ghost hunt with a special edition sisters edition. So, yeah, we're going to release that probably next couple of days. All the details. So Cristina and I will be filming that in Kentucky, and that's going to be fascinating. So yeah, we'll release all that here coming up.
Yes, we're super excited about that. Scott wants to know, what are you doing in Texas, Grizzly?
Well, see, oh, wait a minute. There we go. Right there we go, right there.
He is broadcasting from my dining room while I'm in the office.
Yeah.
He came down here to see me. We're going to go chase some ghosts and some spirits and see what other kind of hauntings we can find while he's here. And then we're going to head up to Michigan for a Bigfoot conference.
That is correct. I do want to give a shout out to Aware and Arise. It's a good friend of ours and a psychic, and make sure and follow Aware and Arise. Welcome back to the Bigfoot Outlaw family. He says it's no coincidence that last night was the slight lunar eclipse and sleep was very rough, change in frequencies. And he's absolutely right. Yes. I actually drove in that last night, and the drive was very strange and a lot of unique strangeness and delays, wasn't it, Cristina?
Yes. And, I think you sat in traffic for what, about a little over an hour?
Yes.
In Arkansas. And
that is correct.
It was very weird because the GPS was recommending that he take like this, what was it, like a 75-mile detour or something like that. And right at where it was telling him to take the detour, traffic cleared up that he had been sitting in for an hour. And then he was able to just get right back on track. And the original time that was given from the GPS for him to arrive at my house from his house was at 5, I think it was 5:30, 5:31, something like that. And the fact that he sat in traffic for 1 hour and still arrived at 5:47 a.m., I think is a testament to there are no coincidences. We get put right where we're supposed to be when we are supposed to be there. Nothing can delay us. Nothing can stop us. You just have to manifest it and put it into your life.
Amy says, my coincidences are more on the ground. There is no way should have met my husband in a small town, Tennessee, at the post office. And let me tell you something, Amy, I totally agree. You meet people at the strange places at the strange times. And I do believe in that. There are no coincidences. And I want to give a shout out to Barb Hartman. Thank you, Barb, for yesterday, for filling in for me. Barb, we got a special guest tonight at 9:00 p.m., Eric Tipton. So thank you for filling in. Hello, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Hello, beautiful family. Barb, yes, thank you. You did an amazing job last night. We both watched late into the night as he was driving. And we talked about how amazing it was. So thank you. Back to Amy talking about the no coincidences of meeting her husband in a post office. I think that Grizzly and I can attest to that. I mean, we met in a TikTok live, and look where we are now. It's amazing. It's beautiful how when you are in alignment with your life aligns everything for you. You don't have to put in the work. It's given to you freely.
Yeah, Lori says, Witchy stated on TikTok a few things about God's timing. She says, I experienced a validation of that in tune with the reading last week. The puzzle pieces, coincidences, are no coincidence. Yes, absolutely, Lori. Absolutely.
Yes,
I totally believe in that.
And I know, obviously, I'm not going to delve too much into the reading that we did, but Lori was kind of looking at the glass half empty. And I sat and I gave her a very thorough, in-depth reading. And Grizzly talked to some ancestors from the other side for her. And when everything was said and done, she was like, wow, I just feel so much lighter. I'm able to go on with the rest of my week without all that weight on my shoulders. And then she came into our live. I want to say it was the next night or 2 nights after that. And she was just talking about how the release of pressure of just being able to know that God's timing is the only timing, right? Like, we are given free will, but if we use our free will to align with God or source or higher power, higher entity, whatever you want to call them, when we're aligned with God, everything happens for you. You know, I always say it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And it's so true. You know, I could take my own life as a testament. I know a lot of y'all followed the Love and Light podcast a couple weeks ago where I kind of gave a lot of my story. Definitely didn't give all of it, but a lot of it. And it's just amazing how everything that has happened to me this year has seemed to be that of negativity to a lot of people. And they look at everything and they say, wow, you've smiled through it. You've been happy through it. You've grown through it. You've matured through it. It's all about the perspective that you take and the path that you choose to take. I choose to take God. That's the only explanation I can give for the beautiful things that happen. And I'm sure there are other people in here that can attest to that as well.
Scott says he met his wife at the hospital. It was his dad's nurse. See?
That's so exciting, right? Like, you know, I told a story that I know a lot of people know. I put it up on my TikTok a while ago where it's talking about the guy that was waiting for God to save him, right? There was a jet ski that came along that offered him a ride to shore while his area was drowning or flooding. I'm sorry, not drowning. And the guy says, no, thanks, I'm waiting on God. And then a boat comes through and he says, no, thanks, I'm waiting on God. And then a helicopter comes through and he says, no, thanks, I'm waiting on God. Ultimately, he drowned because the flood kept happening and he didn't take the outs that were given to him. When he dies, he says, God, why didn't you save me? And God says, well, I sent you a boat and a jet ski and a helicopter. Well, what else did you want me to send? And I use this as an example to tell people this is where the free will comes in, right? We can use our free will to go with God's choice and take the jet ski or the boat or the helicopter, Or we can choose to deviate and we can sit there and wait for the yacht that might not be coming. That guy chose to wait for the yacht and he ultimately ended in death. It's all about the choices you make. Take the blessings that are right in front of you and continue on with life to know that more blessings will come when you are choosing God's path. Hey, Pixie,
Well,
how are you?
I just want to let you know that our special guest just arrived in the studio. So let's give Nancy a warm welcome. Nancy, how you doing today?
Hi, Nancy.
I'm good. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you. Long time no see. How have you been?
It's been a minute. I've been good. Busy. I'm sorry I was a little late running. I had an emergency with one of my clients who called me and would not get off the phone. So
No, we understand. I know how it is.
Right.
So introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do and who you are and a little bit of background about you, hon.
all right. Well, guys, my name is Nancy Planeta. That's my given name. My nickname in the paranormal for decades now has been Wiccan Vixen. I have been in the fields of the paranormal for we're going on 30 years now. Starting in ghost hunting, but the last several years it's been more the UFOlogy side of things. A lot of cryptid research, because to me it all meshes together in some really, really unusual ways that have piqued my interest. So I continue the studies in those areas. Um, I am a big proponent, believe it or not, of science, even though, yes, I am a witch, but things still have to make sense to me. If they do not, then we have a problem. I am a pattern person, as I like to say. The pattern is not moving correctly or fitting together correctly. My brain just rejects it. It's like, nope, got to look for more information. But yeah, I've run my own radio show since 2007. That is Vixen's Fault. Oop, hold on. Give me one. Oop, my neighbor just let their dog out. Sorry.
No worries.
And my little dog is just kind of like, what the heck just happened? But so I've been doing the Vixen's Vault since 2007, on and off. Took a big sabbatical over COVID because just was too much going on, and I really kind of wanted to focus on my family. And actually, I started a homestead. I have chickens and turkeys and everything else, which puts me in heaven. And then I decided to get back into radio, and I started with Dragus Productions again. Went with Cafe Enigma, and now I have actually opened up my own production company as well as my own streaming server. We're calling it Planet A Productions because my last name is Planeta, and it's kind of a play on words.
Love
And
it.
I always have to spell it out phonetically. I'm like, it's really phonetic. It's planet. It means planet in every Latin language. Planeta. But
Right.
basically, we're just getting that spooled out, and I've already got several jobs that I'm working. So it's ended up picking up with the May Stringer House locally, which is actually, I think it was on Kindred Spirits a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I have been familiar with the Stringer House. I think my first investigation there was like 2013 or 2014. So they had asked me to jump on board and do a live stream from the house. And they gave me the whole day, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. So what I'm doing is I'm piece parceling the live stream, and there's a movement here locally. Well, he's not local, but he does a very large convention. It's called Full Disclosure Now. That's Brian Sang, and he's going to jump in. We're going to have some of his people, some of his super soldier survivors and Montauk project people coming in for like half-hour intervals to introduce themselves and talk to people. I've got
awesome.
Scotty Roberts on board. I'm going to be selling books for him. Jack Carey. So it's kind of blown into something it shouldn't have. And I was kind of laughing because I just checked, because I have it advertising on 2 Facebook feeds and on Telegram. And on Facebook, my personal feed just hit 1,000 views, and the other feed is at 600 views, and my Telegram feeds, I'm up over 6,000 views.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of coming together, I guess you could say. But
yeah, it sounds like you're doing
that's
really
me.
well.
I am a person. I mean, Chris knows me. Grizzly and I met because I am a sensitive.
Right.
I'm more of the, I guess you could say, the prophetic dreamer end of things. I believe I remote view, but if you were going to put me in a category, it would be prophetic dreaming. I'm going to kill my dog in a moment. Dahlia, No. She's
They
like, but there's
always
little
know when to
children.
come in at the most inopportune times.
We're actually outside because my house where I live is actually one, haunted and tends to have weird things
Nice.
happen when I talk on the phone inside. And two, it's all tile. So the
So
reverberation. Come on, baby.
So
I'm gonna
as
put
you're
her back in
talking
bed.
about your house being haunted, I was actually on a video call with a friend today, and he says, "Can you move your head a little bit to your left?" And I did, and he was like, "I can see a face right
Ooh.
beside you." And I was like, "Oh." And I look and I blew my screen up, right? Because I wanted to see the whole big screen. And I was like, hold on, I can't see it when I have the screen blown up. But when I'm in the small picture, I can see the face. And he's like, "Yeah, it's like a young boy." And I was like, "Huh, my son that I miscarried would be 21 years old right now." I was like, "Is he
Oh,
about 21?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like looking at it and I said, "Oh, I see him." And he tells me, he says, "Yeah, he just slow blinked at me. Like, I think it was supposed to be a confirmation or something like that." And I was like, "Well, let me tell you a story. My 4-year-old daughter and I, when she gets stressed, I do a slow blink like this to tell her I love you, and it gets her to slow blink, which, when you close your eyes, it helps you center yourself. And that's how my daughter and I say, I love you. And so
oh.
my 21-year-old spirit son was hanging out with me in my house today.
See, now I wish I could say, although what's in where I live is not dangerous or anything like that. It's just it can be annoying at times, but it's I live in a house that was built in the early 40s.
Mhm.
It's very large, but it was originally built as a how do we say this politely? I don't think we do. It was built as a whorehouse for the local politicians. So it was a den of iniquity. There we go.
Yeah.
Um, when it was sold after it got discovered and the county got really upset, um, it was sold to an assisted living facility. Initially, it was a come one come all, very lovely assisted living, and it's on a very large parcel of land, so it was quite pretty. And then as time progressed, it became, fewer and fewer people could afford it, and they actually ended up catering to people with special psychological needs. So
Right.
it was basically an assisted living facility for people with criminal issues with their, I guess you could say, their neurological functions. So, yeah. And then that got shut down and it sat abandoned for a long time until the guy I bought it from purchased it. And he didn't do much with it. So when I moved in, it was still hooked up as an assisted, like it had the yellow lines, the wheelchair ramps. It had the actual audio system for an assisted living facility. It had all the alarms. I was like, oh, my daughter looked at me and went, "Are you nuts?" I was like, I'm good. I was like, you know what? My cats are fine. I said, if the cats are fine, I said, and I feel the energy. There's definitely energy here, but
Right.
it's more of a kind of like, why are you here kind of thing with them. Like they're kind of questioning if we're nuts.
Yeah.
Um, but we've been here several years now, and we've definitely had several events that would make firefighters scratching their head going, we can't tell you how this fire alarm is going off because it's not even hooked up, there's no battery in it. It's like should not be going off, but it just is what it is. And they move, you see them out of the corner of your eye here and there, they'll move around, and you'll see my cats react every here and there, and once in a while I can hear somebody talking to me in the house very clearly, but I know there's nobody there. I know I'm there alone.
Is it
So
masculine or feminine, or do you have a little bit of both?
it's a little bit of both. One is there's one feminine, one female, and I dare say she's probably in her mid to late 70s just from the vocal tone. But she's always, "Hi, dearie." It's the strangest. You stand in my kitchen and you hear, "Hi, dearie," and it's like, "What? Who? What? Oh, hi. Can I finish cooking now?" And the
How
other one is always, "Check the front door," which is
Oh,
weird.
wow.
It's always the same. It's never different when it comes to what they're saying. It's always, "Check the front door," and "Hi, dearie." Um, And you would think I was nuts, but my husband, who doesn't really believe in a lot of this stuff, has said to me several times, "Oh, there's something in this house." And I'm like, "Yeah, I
So,
know."
so I have abilities, and I'm getting told that the one that says check the front door was from the uh the whorehouse. And the
Sense.
one that says hi dearie came from, I'm being told, was there right before the mental health place closed down.
It may have been the owner, and I've thought about that because she lived on premises.
Yeah,
Um,
okay, yeah. I got confirmation when you said that.
yeah, I had thought it might be her just because it wasn't. It's a very clear, distinctive thing, and I've always, when it comes to mental health, they're more tricksters a lot of times, or they're just very
Yeah,
quiet.
yeah.
Um,
Because I was
now
told,
what's
and that makes sense because I was told that she was there at the end of it. And so I was
yeah,
trying to figure out, like, was it towards the end and then she got moved? Or so now that you're saying that the
she
owner was there.
she actually passed. The owner passed away in the house, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
yeah. And then everybody had to be placed in other locations, and this place was shuttered. So it's a very interesting history, like I said. And what's really funny is, like, I come from I mean, I'm not Catholic, as you know. I'm a Wiccan. I definitely, that's where I'm at. But my mother and my family are Catholic. I'm a full Italian. So my mother comes up to the house for the first time. And I told her, the history of the house because I love history. So I'm going to share it. And here's my mother with the winky eye going in the driveway. And she pulls this bottle out of her purse. And I'm like, "Mother, what is that?" And she goes, "It's holy water." I'm
I
like, "Hold,
knew it.
hold, Mom." And she was like, "You need to go in and bless that house. I'm not stepping foot in there until you go in and bless it." I'm like, "Mom, you realize I'm not a Christian, right?" And she was like, "You still believe in good energy." I was like, "True, true, good point." So here I go with my happy little bottle of freaking holy water. And I go in the house. I literally step through the front door, and there's this like long hallway entrance. It's almost kind of almost like The Shining sometimes. So I take the water and I do splish, splish, splish. And I'm like, you do the hand sign of the cross. I'm like, anything else, just consider yourself included. I was like, do not bother my mother. And I go back out front. I was in the house maybe a minute and a half. And I go out and I'm walking out to the driveway, and I'm getting the squinty eye look, like that searing mother devil eye that you can't
Mhm.
escape from.
No, I know
And I
it
get
too
closer
well.
to the car, and she very slowly rolls the window down with the electric thing. And I'm like, "Yes." And I was like, "Are you coming in?" She was like, "You did not bless that entire house." And I'm like, "Mom, I blessed the front entry. It's fine. You're with me. I promise you it'll be fine." And she looks at me and she goes, I was like, "What do you, Mom?" I said, "People who are considered criminally insane, many times they have, they had unresolved things happen in their past, traumas, and sometimes there's mental illness that was never diagnosed." I said, you can't judge them." And she just gives me this like really kooky look, and she goes, "Oh, honey, I'm not worried about the mentally. Oh, no, it's the horrors I'm worried about." And I'm like, "Okay,
Oh,
okie
that's
dokie."
funny. Oh
Oh,
man,
yeah.
that's
So she's
fantastic.
like, "Wherever their sleeping quarters are, you bless it like 50 times." I'm like, "Oh, God, Mom." But yeah,
Mm.
that was her thing. And yeah, like I said, I'm still up on the land, and I love it. I love the house, but I'm comfortable in active environments. It doesn't bother me. Um, and
Yeah,
somebody
me
said to me,
either.
"Why is that?" Yeah, no, I can sleep in like the most haunted place on earth, and it does not bother me.
Yeah, this guy
Mm,
is taking me Bigfoot hunting with him next week.
oh,
And
nice.
he was like, "What are you going to do when one growls at you?" I'm going to turn around and look at him and ask him if he's got a stubbed toe or something. Like, why are you growling, bro?
Are you giving me your dimensional portal number? If so, may I have
Right,
access?
right. I'm like, I'm going to talk to them. This is exciting for me.
Well, it's funny because I was just last weekend, I was up north of where I'm at, maybe 25, 30 minutes north of where I'm at. We were out on the water, and as we're coming in, the guy is going to dock our boat as we're coming in off the river. And first things out of his mouth, he goes, "What you smelling?" He goes, "What you smell?" He goes, "That's not skunk." He goes, That's not, there's it's not any kind of trash or nothing. That you're smelling the skunk ape." I had never met this guy before in my life. He had no idea who I was, what I do. And he's sitting there telling us all how we're smelling the skunk ape. He goes, he would just hear, we know, because he's got a very particular smell. And I was like, well, if that is skunk ape, he can remain undiscovered for all I give a crap forever.
Right.
Because I never want to smell a scent like that again, because now it's stuck in my nostrils, up in my hair.
That is right. You'll never forget it, will you, Nancy?
Nope. And I worked as an EMT for years, so I know what a dead body smells like, and it's that same type of deal where you almost wish you could bleach the hairs inside your nose.
Right.
It's just, you never forget that smell.
So we have a couple of audience members who are telling their Catholic stories, right? So I figured I'll throw my little Catholic story in here too. I got married when I was 20 years old to this nice Catholic man. And I thought we were on the understanding that I wasn't going to become Catholic and that I was not going to change my views on life. And I guess he didn't understand how true I stood to that. So about a year, maybe a year and a half into our marriage, he's driving the car, and as we're getting ready to go over a bridge, I don't know why I did this as we were getting ready to go over a bridge, but I was like, how would you feel if I told you I was a witch? And he was like, I would drive this car over this bridge right now. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not. I don't want to die right now. Of course, I was a 21-year-old girl, right? I was scared. And shortly after that, I ended up leaving that marriage because he had then told me that the Catholic Church wanted me to sign paper saying that I was going to make sure that our firstborn child was brought to the Catholic Church and baptized, and all that stuff. And I was like, no, I'm not ever forcing any child of mine to believe anything. They will learn it of their own free will. That is what God believes, free will. And he didn't like when I said that. So that kind of ended that for me.
I have two adults. They're both in their 30s now, but 2 children, 9 grandchildren. And wow. I had said I had both of my kids baptized. Not just for my parents, and I put them both through CCD, Catholic education classes. And I didn't do it for my family or for my parents. I did it so they would have a base idea of societal rules. Because I've always said, to me, the 10 Commandments, that's a good deck of cards right there. That's a good basis to run a society on. I have no issue with any of that. And I've always said that. I have no issue with Catholics. I have no issues with Christians. It's not my path.
Right.
But I raised my kids multiculturally. So they had catechism education, which I was not going to give them, even though I'm very well versed in the Bible and in Catholicism and actually in Christianity. But that's because I chose to be, so I don't offend other people by not having knowledge when I speak to them.
Right.
But I felt it was for them to decide. And what was funny is that my daughter went the Catholic route. My son did not. And he said to me, it just fits better, Mom. It's just, I'm more comfortable with it. I don't feel like I'm having to lie to myself or make excuses for things that don't fit correctly. And I said, we had my uncle was actually a Catholic priest. And when I would talk to him about it, he would say, stick to your decision. Because I would say it bothers Mom. It really bothers Mom. Like every year. And I'm 54 years old now, and my mother's still. When are you coming back to the church? Oh, I don't know, Mom. Just leave the door open, just in case.
Right.
And I try to be gentle and say, I'm not trying to upset you, Mom. I'm telling you, if I was to make a commitment to Christianity, to the Catholic Church, I would be lying.
Right.
I would be lying because it doesn't fit me.
Right. So I actually have a 4-year-old little girl, and I raise her to listen to self and to believe what she wants to believe. She asks me about God and Jesus, and I do tell her of the teachings of Christianity. I personally went to a Christian university, so I got trained with Old Testament, New Testament, world religions. Like I did all kinds of classes. And I've chose to be a spiritual being that does not believe in religion or denomination. And I still believe in source. I still believe that there's a higher entity. I pray or manifest, whatever you want to call it. Praying, manifesting, casting spells, it's all the same thing, right? So I teach my daughter, I'm like, go with your intuition. And my daughter, um, she sees things and hears things, and she is so open. And I love that I'm able to teach her that from the time that she was born. Um, but if she sits there and says, "Mom, I want to go to church," I will be happy to take her to church so that she can have that experience as well. She asks if we can pray to God every night before she goes to bed, and that's what I do with her. I pray to God. But I also explain to her that it's an energy entity. It's not just a man with a beard.
Right.
So, that's the route that I go with her.
That's actually with my kids. Because I always said, even though I am the Wiccan, I always say the Wiccan vixen, that was a form of alliteration. It was done for many reasons, mostly for entertainment purposes, because it's quick, it's easy, it's catchy. People remember it. Now I am a witch, but does that mean I'm actually like an Alexandrian or Gardinian Wiccan? No, I'm not. I'm an eclectic. I
Right.
literally go with what I will not practice with covens.
Right.
I will not do it. And when I've been asked to, I always say it's nothing against you guys, but I'm not about this whole merging energy thing.
Exactly.
I have my own energy. It's very strong.
Mm-hmm.
I share it with people willfully, willingly, all the time for healing purposes, for positive purposes, whatever I need to do to help somebody get over a bridge or a stone, I'm more than willing to do it. However, I am not going to put my energy into something where I might have a perceptual schism. I may not agree with what I won't do it.
Yep.
I said, I'm really protective because that is a real quick path to some really dark, dank places
Exactly.
where I want to be. So I always kind of stay to the outside. I'm like, and then what's really funny is when people find out where my political alliances lie. I'm a conservative. And that
Oh yeah, that's really crazy, right?
I said to somebody the other day, so I said, you think it's hard being a Trump supporter because you're Christian?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Try being
Yeah,
a pagan.
absolutely.
I said, I
So-
get destroyed by both sides. It's awesome.
So Nancy, one of our listeners and family members, Twisted, asked if you currently practice Wiccan, and I feel like you were already kind of touching on everything that you do. So I just wanted to incorporate that. That question was out there.
Okay, so I'm not into how do I define this? I've been at this a very long time. Like I made my jump when I was between 11 and 12 years old. Started as everybody else does, pretty much the bottle potion, little witch, watching too much television. But there was something about it that pulled to me, and it had to do with my prophetic dreaming. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for answers. And
Right.
for some reason, this belief system that gave an individuality, yet considered it's more of a transcendentalistic kind of type of view, but you were free to make your own choices as to what fit. And where I ended up was energy. Everything
Right.
is energy. You know that through science. Everything is energy. You had different forms that were defined differently, that were given names to make it simplified for people. Do we have a creator? Yeah, I believe we do have a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there's comeuppance coming, a big one.
Yes.
Because truly, and I'm very, very set when I say, listen, guys, people like me who can prophetically dream, who can touch things sometimes and have knowledge.
Right.
Let me tell you about. I am not an advancement. I'm not a mystic. I'm not an oogly boogly. I'm not a witch that casts spells. I am a throwback.
Right.
I am what we were at one point until those things were suppressed. And the more you do it, the stronger you become, but it's a responsibility. I can almost see why it was repressed. And I've said that. I can't even imagine some of the people in power right now having some of these abilities, because it would go very badly for the rest of humanity.
Yeah. Very badly. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. I said, so it's kind of a mixed bag. Do I want everybody to awaken, to become who they're meant to be? Abso-friggin-lutely. Do I want them to lose everything they believed? No. I want them to become stronger in their beliefs.
Right. And
I mean,
I was actually just talking to another person very recently where I had told them, I said, "Do you realize that the Great Awakening, it started in 2017 and the 2024 is supposed to be the catalyst of it, right? It's supposed to be the biggest year of the Great Awakening." And we had the solar eclipse that happened in April, and then we've had several X factor solar flares going off. I think we even had an X10 go off earlier this year. And I don't know if you keep up with the solar flares, but we have had 5 X class solar flares go off in the last week alone. And I was telling this friend,
yep,
I
we
said,
just had X 4.5 Sunday.
yes,
Yep.
I was like, with all of these X class solar flares going off in such a short amount of time, this is the second, like the second big batch of the Great Awakening that's supposed to happen of 2024. And I honestly see us having an X10 coming soon.
Yep.
Which is going to jolt so many souls. And I
Well,
had to remind that friend, I said, we have the knowledge that we have so that we can help these people and we can guide them so that they can be ready for what is coming. A lot of people don't realize it.
I always say I'm the doormat. And somebody said to me last night, "That's a horrible way to think about yourself." I said, "Really? I'm proud of it. I'm
Right.
here
Like
so
you're
people can get
welcoming.
where they need to go." I was like, "I'm an
Right.
educator. I'm a doormat." I said, literally, to get them to a better space, to a higher vibration, yeah, I
Yes.
will lay down every day and let them step on me every day.
Exactly. The way, because I am prominently on TikTok and I'm trying to grow my following on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff. But I started out on TikTok, and the way that I tell people, I'm like, look, I'm what you would consider a teacher of the teachers, right? I'm here to teach you so that you can go do what you need to do and help make the world better. I don't know why I was given the knowledge that I was given or the abilities that I was given, but as long as I use them in a positive entity and I keep everything going through source, then I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do and it's going to change the world. I might not change it by myself because what happens when you bring light together, light shines brighter when it's put together. And
Yep.
it's just a matter
So
of
true.
getting people to understand it.
Well, getting people to see the patterns themselves. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
focus on, because I'm like, we did ourselves a disservice with our children, with our history, because we are no longer teaching children pattern recognition. And I'm not
Right.
talking blue square to square. I'm talking when you're looking at pieces of information, I always said there's a poetic way that information is parceled together. And when it's correct, it has a pattern to it. If it's not correct, it's almost like a visible juncture that
Right.
belts out that says, "Wait a minute, what? That whole paragraph was great except for that word." And I said, we are no longer trained to look for that and then figure out why. Like, intellectual critical thinking has gone to crap. And when you
Yeah.
do it, you get labeled.
Oh, totally
But,
agree with that. Totally agree with that.
And
yep,
look, Little
so
Twisted is saying energy cannot be created or destroyed.
it can only change or what? It can only change or travel.
It can, I was going to say it can intensify, but you're not going to change it.
You can change
Um,
energy. Energy does change. It can mutate form, but it can only conduct and change. That is the law of thermodynamics. That
Right.
is how it works. And the thing is when you really break that down, and this is why I say there's a lot of science in this little witch, because there's logic to it. I'm like, if you break it down, we are not solid matter.
No.
right.
Scientifically, we're not. We're
We're not.
oscillating particles, billions
That's
of them,
right.
and kept together by a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be really scared when they're putting 5G towers up everywhere that belts out a really strong frequency that is not good for us.
Yeah.
It's really not. I
I
said, you
tell
want
people I don't even like wearing the digital watches.
Yep.
I hate that everything that I do in order to educate is done through computers and phones. I hate having to carry the stupid phone with me all the time because those things are what's drawing energy from us, right? And it's what's
well, it's emitting a radiation field, number one.
right.
It's emitting high levels of EMF.
Yes.
In fact, if you put like a trimeter up against a phone, it's going to go bonkers.
Yeah.
And that's not including, that's if you're not even on the router. If you're on a router, it's even worse.
Right.
But it's, and again, you have to think about the way frequencies, energy waves, how do they work? Well, if you've got one coming, if one is stronger than the other or at a different level than the other, it can push it or move it or change it. And how do you think that works on the human body and the human brain? I said to somebody the other day, we have magnetite in our brain. We are a migratory species. People forget that. I said, you see all these birds falling out of the sky and all these fish like washing up where they shouldn't and missing their mating grounds. The birds are going to the wrong countries. I said, why is that? It's because their magnetite's all messed up. Why is the magnetite messed up? Well, because the poles are moving.
Yes.
And we also are having solar flares, and our magnetosphere is thin.
Yes.
So it's, problematic.
And the fact that you're talking about this in this context, it's someone said poetic. I was going to say mesmerizing, because I love when I can have a great mind that is like mine, where we know that if we take the spirituality and the science and we put them together, that is what gives us the answer, right?
It's a dance. It's a beautifully choreographed universal dance. And when you put the right partnering together, it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
It really is. And so much all of a sudden becomes so obvious. It's like the veil is lifted and you're suddenly looking at things differently. You look at nature differently. You look at, like last night, we had the partial lunar eclipse.
Yes.
Right.
It was breathtaking. I'm all about that. That to me, that's an energy form. That's kind of food for me. So I'll go out and bask in the light of the moon.
Well, that's a feminine energy, right? So, I mean, of course, why wouldn't we want to go out and be in it?
Oh, and I'm a Piscean, so the moon is kind of part and parcel to my sign.
Right.
So it's very drawn to it. And on the other side of that, in fact, I got an award today with somebody about Bill Gates. And they were saying, well, he's a philanthropist. I said, okay, really? We need to look at the definition.
Oh
of that.
my gosh. Here we go.
If you put it on him, we're in big trouble. I was like, you realize that man is talking about putting a fusion reactor in the sky to block the sun.
Right.
Yeah.
The sun's too strong. I said, and it's not even his original technology, it's China's. I said, and I know that because I know when China came out with that technology. Say, my other life, I do cybersecurity for a living. So not much I don't know about computers and what's going on.
Right.
So I was like, it's kind of like the pagers that exploded. I was at a hacker, and they were like, what do you think could have caused that? And so I posted a DOD article from like 7 or 8 years ago about what's called a trigger bridge that's built into a microchip.
Wow.
And I was like, most likely they use something like this, because once they trigger it, they said it would set them all off. It would overheat them immediately and blow the lithium battery.
That's insane.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry. That's murder. That's just wrong on so many levels.
You were just hitting on the partial lunar eclipse, and also it was a supermoon. So for people who don't know, these things affect our emotions immensely. You want to make sure you don't go out and try to get into arguments or, do all these things that tend to make us feel a little bit crazy while we're going through the supermoon phase. And I do believe it's supposed to end on September 30th. Yeah,
usually people don't realize that the moon phase is usually a 4-day event.
Yeah.
Right.
They say, oh, it's full moon one night. No, that's not how that works.
Mm-mm.
You have waning, waxing. I mean, it moves into the full moon cycle. It's a lasting 4-day cycle.
Right. And since this one was a super moon and the harvest moon, right.
Yep. I mean, that's why it was a golden color, because it was a harvest. Yep. And I know in Florida, it was quite pretty last night. Really, really pretty. But, like I said, it's the same thing with the solar flares. the solar flares are going to agitate the crap out of people.
Yep.
And
And
I
with
keep
all the
saying
solar
that.
flares and the partial lunar eclipse and the supermoon, like we're stacking on stacking on stacking on stuff right now to cause this huge awakening that I'm telling people is going to come.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
coming like a
Nancy and Christina, people that don't believe this, what you're all talking about, we used to say on the police department, look at our calls to service when this happens, and it coincides and people's
Yeah.
reactions and how things and people are affected.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I will attest to that because I actually was a 911 dispatcher. And I'm going to tell you, on the Friday the 13th and the full moons and, you know, the equinoxes, and I mean, anything that causes any kind of energy shift in this earth, we would
Yep.
have so many more calls that night. And I
I was
mean,
an
those
EMT,
nights,
so I
so
get
all
it.
three of us know from three different realms.
Right.
And babies are born galore. I
Right.
hope we say
Right.
that. The labor wards go nuts. It's like the
Yeah.
fathers are just a hot mess. I mean, and then if you add on top of that, because I live in Florida, if there's a storm coming and the pressure drops, that's even worse because
Right.
now you've got, I mean, not just women, human women in labor, you pretty much everything and anything that can go into labor is in labor.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's just nuts. And then everybody's concerned, they're scared, they're this, they're that. It's just the absolute chaotic energy that comes out of that. You know, I always kind of laugh because I was like, the best thing I ever learned when I was an EMT was how to compartmentalize. It probably was the greatest thing I've ever learned. It works for me with ghost hunting, UFOlogy, because I can take my personal crap, throw that in a little box, close it, seal it up really good, and then I'm open to what's happening, and I can give an unbiased opinion, or I can look at the science of it. And I'm the first person to tell you what I think I'm wrong on a theory. I'll be like, wait, I think that's wrong. Oh,
Yeah.
give me a second. But
You know,
I mean, I love that.
Oh,
you mentioned
absolutely.
the compartmentalizing. I've actually had people tell me, they're like, how do you not have emotions? And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's the training from my childhood or the training from being in the military or working at a prison or being a 911 dispatcher. I mean, pull it from where you want. But I promise you, if it's something that I don't want to deal with right now, I'm going to tuck it in a little box, shut the door, and go, yeah, I'll deal with you later, and go about what I'm doing.
Let me tell you, when I can tell you that firsthand because my kids were young when I was working. And you know, you pull up on some scenes that were not pleasant for anybody of any age to have to witness or even participate with patients. And I, you know, I would say, you know, especially if it involved children, it's like, you know, you'd have to like pretty much shove myself kicking and screaming into that box. Like, wait, but I want to have an emotion. No, you cannot have an emotion. We have a job to do. I mean, you have to, because people's lives depend on it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way sometimes about this. You have to be as direct as you can. You have to be as honest as you can. You have to learn as much as you can. Why? Because people's souls depend on this moving forward. I mean, and I've said that it's not really a battle for the body. It's a battle for the soul. And if you don't believe me, go Google soul machine patents. Google it. It'll scare the snot out of you. Because they're actually working on things like that. How to have a human soul redirected into a computer.
Oh, they've been doing
You know,
that for years.
I was going to say, I had somebody
Exactly.
telling me that they read something about how celebrities are already paying for it.
But this is what I mean, folks. It's not. This is not sci-fi scary future. This is sci-fi present, and it's actually
Right.
sci-fi past.
Right.
It's been here. It's been here for a while. They don't share it. Why? Because they don't want everybody to live, but they do want to control you. And that is now the point we're at. I said that the Roman Catholic Church came out of the Roman Empire. When the Roman Empire fell, the Catholic Church, the Vatican emerged. Well, what most people don't bother to research is, well, who besides St. Peter or St. Paul, you know, the originals, who built the Vatican? Well, if you go start looking up the family names of the cardinals and the popes and the bishops, you're going to find a really, really, really unsettling thing, which is that they're all Roman patriarchal families.
Right.
So Rome never fell. It simply reimagined itself because they lost control over what people were doing. People no longer feared the death cages. They didn't fear dying for a cause. They were happy to martyr themselves. So what do you do as a government and a source of everybody? What do you do when people are suddenly not afraid of your most heinous threat?
Right.
You got to reimagine it.
Yep. You adjust
what
and
was
conquer.
The next thing? So you had this Christ guy who's preaching about people's afterlife. How do we control that afterlife? Well, we'll just tell them that, the church, we'll just take Christ's name, we'll build a church on it, and we'll tell everybody how they have to live to get to that afterlife. And they don't listen, they're going to the most heinous place you could ever imagine. It's like, genius. And now we're at a point where society is now balking on that.
Yep.
So,
and
now what?
So Lori says right here in the comments, she says, historically, the Catholic Church origins were political in nature, not of God, but of men specifically. And I kind of want to hit on that, right? So anybody who believes in star seeds, you would know that reptilians are typically the ones that are greedy and only care about themselves and, the things that kind of coincide with the Catholic Church. And what better way for them to try to take over when they were actually brought here to be used as slaves than to form a congregation, a political congregation, a spiritual congregation where they can slowly take over the world.
Oh, I don't even think it has to be slow.
I mean, they have over hundreds of years. And then, they've obviously sped it up quite a bit to where.
But look, it started. Go back to where it started with this particular movement against Christianity, because I will be the first one to tell you they are 100% targeting Christians.
Oh, yeah.
Do I like it? I think it's heinous. I think it's absolutely disgusting. But that's what they're doing. They're doing that to break up the family unit, because Christians are kind of one of those last bastions of a strong family. But it started, and I said to somebody, it started when they started the Department of Education here in the United States. They started taking away the right of the parent to oversee what a child is being taught.
Yeah.
They took control of how children are taught and what they're taught and what's important and how they perceive it.
You're absolutely right, Nancy, on that. And it's so true, and it's sad. It really is.
Yep. It's, I mean, I remember when my daughter was in first grade, I got into it with a teacher at her school, leave it to me. And it wasn't about religion. It was about holidays, because it was February. They were doing Martin Luther King's birthday, and they were giving the kids, like, it was a whole week, 2 days off, whole week of festivities to celebrate Martin Luther King Day, which I don't have an issue with. I'm like, that's fine. But what they didn't
celebrate Robert E. Lee's birthday.
It wasn't even that. It was Washington and Lincoln.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I went up to the principal. I said, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why are my children getting 1 day of education on the two most important presidents in our history, and they're getting a whole week on somebody who never led the country?
Yeah.
I have a problem with that, and I'm not saying it because I don't want my kids to learn about Martin Luther King. I think that's very important, but I think the presidents are just as important.
I agree.
And they didn't like that very much, but
I remember when I was in school that we spent a whole month talking about the presidents for February.
Yeah, it was a big thing.
And we got the actual days off of school as a celebration of what they had accomplished for our country.
Well, now we're being told we owed reparations. We're being told the founding fathers they sucked. They didn't know what they were talking about. The Constitution is not an actual document that we have to follow. I mean,
we're tearing down damn statues and removing them.
Right.
Oh my God.
Nancy, you done opened up the Pandora's gate now. The hell?
Grizzly said, I'm getting in this comments.
Yeah, you done open it up. We done got Aunt Jemima. We done got, oh Lord, Land O'Lakes butter.
We have not been able to express this, though. And that's what really upsets me, is that when people begin to express, hey, this makes no sense, or this, listen, it's got nothing to do with what race you are. It's got to do with the history of the nation.
Yeah.
It's not a racial thing. It's
Yeah.
not a sexual thing. It's
Right.
the history of the damn country.
Right.
And if
And
you
when
don't learn it, we're going to repeat the mistakes that have been made.
exactly, when we sit here and we have a government that is trying to find workarounds on our Constitution to backdoor us with no lube, that's when we know there's a problem, and they've been doing it for years. And everybody has kept their eyes closed to it for so long. It's just astounding to me that people don't want to.
I
Go
wrote a
ahead.
thing yesterday on my Facebook about Harris, Kamala Harris. And
Mhm.
I had to think for a minute there because I always call her Camel Toe. But it just falls out of my
front
mouth.
door. That was funny.
But I mean, I had to really pause for a minute, say, don't let it come out. But I mean, I wrote something yesterday because it's very true. And I was comparing, a history lesson, basically. I said, when was the last time, we had a people who were convinced by sparkly things and firewater to be herded into cities, because that's what they're doing. They're building into these cities. They're buying up all the farmland and the rural properties and the homes, and they're pushing us into the cities. So when was the last time that happened, and how did that end for those people? Because it's still ongoing for some of them. And the fact is it didn't. They did the arms buyback, except they didn't buy anything. I mean, all of it. We're repeating history.
Yes.
Repeating it. And I'm like, this is the most ridiculous. We are on the trail of tears. Are you kidding me right now?
And unfortunately, we have a generation of people that it doesn't matter to them.
No.
Because it wasn't what they were taught to stand for.
Or they think that it's just desserts. Because if you're Anglo-American, you are unfortunately now, you're told all the time that you think you deserve this. And I always kind of shake my head. I think, do you know how hard I've had to work my whole life? Do you realize how hard I've had to? I've never taken a dime from the government, except for, I did do the unemployment during COVID, but I earned that money and I paid into unemployment. So yeah, I was taking my own money. So it's one of those things where I get really mad because I'm like, a lot of people have busted their asses.
Yeah.
And the color of their skin is moot. It's a moot point. In fact, I said to a Democrat the other day, if it really mattered to you guys, you would drop every label on every government application. It would not ask you how old you are. It would not ask you what color you are. It would not ask you what sex you are. It would just go based on what you are capable of. What have you done? I said, nothing else matters. Everything else is inconsequential. Your experience and what you can bring to the floor, that is what matters.
Yep.
I said, and we've gotten away from that.
And Little Twisted, I believe it's going to be more than 20 cities that we're going to lose to gangs, because if you look at the numbers for gangs and statistics in our countries, or our country, and then within the states, and if we break it down to even in the cities, and then the rural areas, we've already been taken over, sweetie.
Oh, not just that, but why do they go to gangs? You want to know why? Because the gangs give them a sense of family.
That's right.
That's why.
That's the key right there, Nancy. You just named it.
You did. That's 100% why they go to gangs. They go to gangs for protection and a sense of family.
Everything we're supposed to be doing and that our government disallows us to do.
Exactly. That's 100% correct. I was just reading an article this morning that was talking about a new gang that has kind of taken over in the south of the United States. And they're saying that the home base is in Venezuela, but their United States home base is in El Paso, Texas, which I live in Texas, and Little Twisted lives in Texas too. So she knows you can't go anywhere here without running into gang activity. It's sad, honestly, because the ideology that we should be teaching at home doesn't get taught at home. It gets taught on the streets, but in the wrong kind of manner.
Well, and the worst part is that they're importing gangs because the American, like, I mean, people, I think they think like the Latin Kings, those are, Central American. No, 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 no. They Americanized decades ago. Folks is an American gang. I mean, the Pagans are an American gang. They're a motorcycle club, but these are, I mean, even the Crips and the Bloods, those are American, right?
Yeah.
And they do have loyalty, believe it or not, to the American people and to their neighborhoods and to their families. So they're kind of hard to get to turn on a population. The foreign gangs are not. And it's like with the Haitians, let me tell you, when they were denying the Haitian issue, I'm in Florida. And you know what? We actually had an executive order issued here back in March because of the Haitians, because they were coming in by the boatloads, by the thousands. And they were coming in the middle of the night and landing on private beaches and just scurrying away until the point where Ron DeSantis actually put together a task force specifically to try to round them up. I mean, just thousands of them. And out like a warning saying, hey, this is, they're dangerous. This is what they do. These are their traditions. They don't live by the same rules of society we do. Basically it was a kind of, please don't shoot them, but if you have to. And again, so they had these problems up in Ohio, and I'm like, what, did they not get the memo?
Exactly.
We know down here. I mean, we've got little Haiti right in Miami. That is not a place you want to go.
I know we got little Mexico in Houston. It's sad. But Nancy, our time is up, and this boss of mine likes to work me way too hard and say we're not allowed to be on longer than our time. So I want to thank you so much for coming and joining me on the podcast, and hopefully we get to have conversation like this again soon. It's been such a pleasure. I know the audience has loved you. How can our followers find you?
Okay, guys. Well, you can look me up on Facebook. I'm under my name, which is Nancy. The last name is Planeta. Again, very phonetic. Planet with an A on the end. I am the only Nancy Planeta on Facebook, so there's no missing me. I'm also, I think if you type in Wiccan Vixen, it will pull up my profile. I'm on Telegram under Wiccan Vixen. I am on X as Rider on the Storm. And on Skype, I'm Wiccan Vixen also. You can reach me through wiccanvixen@gmail.com. And my show, The Vixen's Fault, will be coming back on the air within the next 2 weeks. So I will be posting about that. Y'all can listen in.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Nancy.
Yes. I love you guys. This was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I hope we get to do it again soon. I so enjoyed this. But from coast to coast, all around the world, we want to thank everybody for joining the Outlaw family this afternoon, and we hope you have a blessed evening.